Good morning.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Please come up here, take a seat. All right. Hope everyone's having a wonderful San Francisco morning. Yes, it is usually like this around this time of year, so we appreciate you being here with us. As Dr. mentioned, my name is Sinan Ozdemir. I will be moderating this panel. I will be wrangling these AI animals into giving us some answers about how we are all using generative AI in our feature sets and our products. We're going to start with some quick introductions. We're going to go down this path. Just give your name, your role at the company, and just a little bit about yourself. I'll go first. Like I said, my name is Sinan Ozdemir. I'm the founder and CTO of a company called LoopGenius. I've been working in generative AI for about 10 years. Former lecturer of data science at Johns Hopkins, written a few books, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Reid, product at Zapier, focused kind of across the company with AI. Started with our more R&D efforts with AI, and now working kind of with how we're enabling that within the core, as well as R&D.
Thank you. Gargi, product management for Watson X Orchestrate at IBM. Been in this AI world for over 15 years. George.
I'm George Roth. I am the AI Evangelist at UiPath. And I came to UiPath through an acquisition, one of the first acquisition of a company which extensively used AI years ago.
Amazing. We're going to start with an easy question. What has been the biggest success story that you have all had with generative AI at your company?
So for us, number one, I'd say actually giving users the ability to use generative AI in their own automations. Right? For us, it's, for all of us, probably, there's using AI under the hood in terms of how we make building easier, and then giving users the ability to incorporate it into their own automations. So like when OpenAI first released some of the APIs, we had the DaVinci, support for DaVinci, pour one out. And, people really loved that. ChatGPT then came out, and then the whole category of AI apps on our platform became our fastest growing category ever. On the under the hood side, probably some of my favorite ones, there's something we call AI Zap Builder. You essentially give it natural language, and it gives you the outline of what your workflow will be. And that's been incredibly helpful for a lot of users.
Access and automation of your existing feature set. Makes a lot of sense. Gargi, how about you?
Yeah, awesome. So Watson X Orchestrate, it's a product that brings together generative AI for automation with a natural, intuitive, conversational interface. So my biggest experience of a wildly successful feature was while building an AI assistant. The AI assistant really helped us automate tasks, which means, pull your data from Salesforce, summarize using the large language model, put it out somewhere for a decision to be made. But at some point, we wanted an opinionated retrieval augmented generation. So this is a very, very common pattern in generative AI, where you ground your LLM with content. And we came up with an opinionated stack where the LLM was IBM's Watson X, but our experiments show that you could actually put in any retriever. So it could be your vector DB of choice, your chunking strategy, Elastic, or use our retriever. So I think creating that opinionated stack that allowed users to use a RAG pattern very simply in their flows really made it work for our customers.
So keeping users up to date with the latest and greatest RAG systems,
yes.
Bringing more access and more automation. So that makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
George, how about you?
Yeah, I brought my context here, so to make sure I'm not hallucinating too much. So basically, we are a platform company. We have hopefully you will stop by, we can show our platform. We have multiple layers, discovery, development, and actually operations of the automations. For us, AI was always part of it. We call it invisible AI because in every layer, we have the AI helping both the development and also helps communication with the developers. And a big thing is to reduce the skills necessary, how we call it democratization of development of automations for the citizen developers. And generative AI is a huge tool for this. Another thing is basically we use Gen AI to validate different things that we identify with other AI techniques or other techniques. Usually, if we can do it with Gen AI, we run it with Gen AI. If the two things match, that's a good proof that it's probably we are on the right result. We use extensively AI for testing, all the test generations from NLP. We have a whole autopilot program, which you can come in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. It's here, a presentation. Also stop by, we can show it to you. And the integration with multiple LLMs. We are an open platform, allowing the customer to mix and match LLMs in order to use the best one.
Okay, so developing with AI in mind from the very beginning, it sounds like it's embedded in pretty much everything that you do, which leads me very well to my next question, slightly harder. Now that we're all prototyping faster, iterating, experimenting faster with generative AI, inevitably there's going to be some feature set, some product that someone thought of, maybe prototype, got on the sprint board, but never made it to production. Give us one example of that happening at your company, and if you can, tell us a little bit about why it never made it all the way to production. We'll go in the same order.
Yeah. So when I boomeranged back to Zapier to work on this AI stuff, and when we were doing a lot of the initial R&D, one of the first things we ever tested was, we called it Zap Chat.
Okay.
All of our initial products were like Zap Blank. The goal of this one was to see how far we could get the model to do chain of thought reasoning. This was, keep in mind, late 2022, and to get it to basically build an entire workflow for a user using nothing but chat, just continuously chatting about what do you want to integrate with, what do you want to do, where should that data go, and continuously going. And that really did not succeed. I think we learned that, especially again, back on DaVinci, it felt like a game of 20 questions that was easily stretching into a game of 75 questions.
Better known as prompt chaining.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It was prompt chaining. And so that one really never made it.
Okay.
But, as I'm sure everybody here has experienced, you MVP with something, you learn something from that, and that kind of continuously led to, and I was very proud that we just quickly shut down so many experiments in those days. Was really fun.
That makes sense. I think that pure chat interface can be really hard to productize and get in front of users and make it really successful. So you're not alone there. I promise you. Gargi, how about yourself?
Oh my God. So Reid's example is very, very close to mine, which failed. So maybe
that's good.
Yeah, maybe there is a learning there. But if you remember what I said, what was successful was the RAG pattern, because we de-risked the LLM by content grounding it. In this feature that we had, it's also for the business users. It's really helping them reason. So expect a business user to come and say, I want you to build this automation for me that allows me to do this, that, and the other. And on the fly, an automation gets built for you. This was not de-risked like the RAG pattern, which means there was really no way to content ground it. We didn't have data. And because we didn't de-risk the persona, I think this sequencing, reasoning really didn't work out as we planned. But it's for the business user, we wanted to give them a little tool in chat that says, I want to do this, that, and the other, and it automatically makes it on the fly. So we took back a strategy. We created a builder persona where you can go and a little bit with low-code tools build it out. And that seems to be working. But I think the main reason or learning for me was that we didn't really de-risk the LLM feature.
Okay. And just to follow up really quickly, de-risking. And I think this is I have another question about that. But I think I'm curious for everyone else as well is, are you de-risking from the model side or from the user side? Or are you thinking about it from both perspectives?
Both, right? For the first one, the RAG pattern, we de-risked from the model side by content grounding it in a knowledge base. But here, it wasn't a RAG pattern, right? So we had to de-risk it from the user side. So either getting implicit feedback, hey, it didn't really work. I put that feedback back into my model. I think that was not done.
Makes sense. George.
Yeah, I will start that. I think everybody here with no exception, we don't know what we don't know about AI. Because this is like such a technology, like black box and magical almost. I give you an example. We have our own private previews that many things didn't make the production yet because we cannot release it before it goes to the preview inside their programs, and if passes that, we will release. So we have stuff that we release. But I give you an example which tells you why you don't know what you don't know. We had the implementation which was using Azure OpenAI in Singapore. And everything was groovy. It was, if I recall, was a government entity there. And they were looking, and the compliance people from there came and they said, okay, this is so cool. Can you tell us where are the servers? I said, what servers? This is the Azure OpenAI. This is on the cloud. Microsoft has everywhere. We have a law. Geographically, the data cannot leave Singapore, which find out Microsoft doesn't have a data center in Singapore to support their cloud. So this was the stuff we didn't progress until we find a solution to be hosted in the territory of the country. So this is, you have to be very careful, and this is related to trustworthy governance and stuff. That's the biggest showstopper for this project, not the technology.
How far did you get before you learned that about Singapore?
It was a project which was started actually with our consulting team. We have a consulting team too, and the project was stopped actually because until they find out, because data cannot. It's not virtual cloud stuff, it's geography. You don't have a data center, you cannot move data from Singapore.
Yeah, so these answers are ranging all the way from user experience wasn't exactly where we wanted it to be and it didn't quite make sense with how we were delivering the feature, to government regulations literally stopped us from moving forward with this project, even though we had already spent money getting it going. And I think that's gonna be and everything in between, it sounds like. So I have one final question. This is probably the hardest question. Thank you for sharing all your failures. We all really appreciate it because everyone here fails. We all know that. I have probably failed even more than any of you put together. Don't worry. Last question though. Without government regulations, without thinking about a lot of external factors that could kind of get in your way, how do you or your team, your company, how do you define success in specifically a generative AI feature? And how does that definition, how do you collect feedback to basically achieve that metric? How does that pipeline work for you all? Once again, same order.
Sweet. I'll use one that's probably more relevant to this audience. We have a feature called the AI code step generator. So in Zapier, you have the ability to add like a Python or JavaScript step into the middle of your workflow. We had seen that like almost as soon as ChatGPT came out, like the increase of usage of code steps simultaneously magically went up. And so we played around with a feature that lives in the product to help you take natural language into a code step by leveraging the data. And we iterated on that, but the way we were tracking success was doing things as simple as like, did we increase the amount of, was we noticed as well in that time period, like failure rates increased, probably because people were doing ChatGPT generated code. And so increasing success rates of the code that was being sent through those steps was a critical one. Secondly, adoption and keeping those features on, or keeping workflows on and running with those features in place was another critical one for us. And then lastly, just pure like, how do you collect that feedback? I think we did have the kind of like, I'm trying to remember if we do actually have that thumbs up, thumbs down thing in that sort of one. Awesome. We have that in like so many of our features. It is hard to keep track. But shout out to everybody who's in the middle of eval suite evaluations. That's always fun. Getting all that data together.
Yeah, user experience plus does this code compile and run without error? Yeah. And I imagine there's a lot of human evaluation that can get thrown in there as well. Gargi, how about yourself?
Yeah, so for every generative AI feature that we decide to put in or not, I'd say 4 things that we absolutely do. One is what Reid talked about, right? Making sure you have implicit and explicit feedback. Explicit is thumbs up, thumbs down. Implicit is abandoned flows, user never came back. said something nasty, right? So we have to have that baked in. But apart from that, there are 3 other things we look at. One is tooling. If I launch this feature, do my developers and designers who are going to be really using these features, do they have the accurate tools for prompting, for testing the models, for if they're in the business of tuning and training, like it depends on what your platform opens up, right? If your platform is opening up tuning and training, do I have the tools? Because prompting to me today is like, and you heard from GitHub, it's like an essay writing. Can I give you better tools to really control the prompts? So tooling for testing and model creation and prompt generation. And then toolings or solutions, because I don't know, all of you are users of Gen AI. There's a lot that you have to do in orchestrating an output of an LLM, feeding it to an enterprise system, doing the mapping of data transformations, and then making it available for users, which is of value, right? So I think there's a whole orchestration layer that needs to be done. There's a beautiful paper from Microsoft and GitHub that talks about this orchestration and the needs for it. And then the final thing is lifecycle management of models, embeddings, your prompts, your libraries, everything that goes from software to being hard, but hard plus plus in Gen AI is something that I wouldn't disregard when I put in an AI feature. So yeah.
Implicit, explicit feedback. I'll come back to that in just one moment. But George, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you 2 ways to do this, and I think this is it's an important way to test it for every company. The first one is the very hard way, the KPI. Look at the numbers, and because UiPath has AI everywhere, it's very hard how you measure. And then we have this model with AI units, which is like a AI currency, because we use AI everywhere, and you have this in the background. So you have a pool of AI, you buy AI currencies, and then you consume them. So for us to monitor the success of the AI is looking at the AI units. These are the sales guys, and these are the tough ones. So now I talk about the soft power. The soft power is very important. You cannot spread the technology and the usage of a new technology without going to the grassroots of the users. For us, because we are a B2B company, B2C it's even simpler, but in B2B, we have a whole set of different type of interactions with the customers, with webinars. We have something called the immersion lab, which is in multiple places in the world, where we bring in new potential industries. Like I did recently one with ocean management. I had no clue what that means. And let the people, the grassroots, come out with new usages. So this is the way, as again, one is sales. Look at the numbers, that's cool. That's the tough one. And the second one is go after the grassroots to make friends with your future developers, because they will be your best advisors.
Yes, so we are putting explicit feedback mechanisms in front of our users. Literally, thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you aware of what you are actually giving feedback on? We have implicit feedback along the way. Did you copy and paste this code? Did you subsequently say something really similar to the AI because you didn't like the first one? Putting these along the way of the path to catch where you might be not performing as well, but again, it requires a lot more human evaluation. And then there's a tale as old as time. How do you get your machine learning metrics to match with high-level sales, business-level KPIs? This has always been really challenging, but especially with generative AI, making that bridge can be even quite more frustrating. So yes, making that community between machine learning and AI engineers and sales and professional development folks is as important as ever. I want to thank each and every person on the stage for taking the time to talk with us, their successes, their not so successes, and how they define success. Thank you everybody here for taking a listen to what we have to say. And if you want to hear a little bit more, we will be on the side taking some questions. But I want to thank once more, let's give it up for Reid, Gargi, and George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.